Hello, this is Insane Monster with part 3 of What If Deku was the son of SCP 4, SCP-076, Abel. Now then, this what if I had to take a lot of notes for not just for Deku and his future and such, but also for the future of a couple of the SCPs. Now then, with that being said, let's hit it. Now then, as in canon, we have Deku going to school as he sees that some of his classmates are getting harassed by the media who are asking the students about All Might going and teaching at UA. Obviously, he's just looks at this crowd of reporters and gets annoyed. Momo is with him as he sighs, remarking that of course the media would be swarming the school the second they hear that All Might is teaching here. As Izuku looks at her and says, "You wanna go an alternate route to avoid them?" Momo remarks, "Wait, what alternate route?" As he grabs Momo and pulls out a chain with a blade on it to launch over the fence and stab into the ground, controlling it to launch them over the fence and such. Now, since they have passes that that are scanned by some kind of perimeter thing, it doesn't set off any alarms. Though as they head over, they are asked not to pull something like that again. Obviously, Deku remarks, "Well, I really didn't want to have to deal with all those reporters back there. Honestly, they're blocking the entire entrance." As the teacher, which is Dog Pound, I believe his name is, just sighs, saying, "Ugh, that's a good point. They're just so annoying and ruff, 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 ruff," as he forgets to talk in human language and just goes off barking. They go into their class and sit down. After which, Aizawa comes in, telling them that they now have to choose a class rep. Now, people in this class see him more as a type of warrior attitude rather than a leader, and also somebody that could and probably would ragdoll his opponents with his chains with a shackle at the end. So, yeah, which means since Momo got the second highest voting score as in canon for class rep, instead of her as vice rep, she ends up being the class rep. While Ida actually ends up being the vice rep in this one. After that, we skip over to lunch where they sit down and start talking, congratulating Momo as well as Ida on everything. Obviously, the same happens in canon with the front gate being disintegrated and the media swarming the campus, setting off the alarms. Students freak out as they try to leave. Deku remarks to Momo, "Honestly, I thought they'd be more composed considering this is UA." Momo sighs, thinking, well, it's not like this happens that often. So, you know, Deku just kind of scratches his head, remarking, "Well, I suppose that's a good point," as they go and get smushed in a mob. As Deku looks over through the window, seeing that it's actually just the media, he just sighs and in annoyance telling Momo that it's actually just the media and that they need to calm these people down. Momo asks him for his help as he wraps his arm around her, using his chains, controlling them to get above the crowd and going towards the exit as Momo yells out, telling them that it's just the media and that they need to calm down. I would imagine training with Izuku like they've done ever since they met, that she'd have a bit more confidence. So she could do this rather easily. After which, her classmates congratulate her on doing that, calming down the panicking student body, though the principal and such are worried about who could have disintegrated their front door so easily. So they are a bit worried. After which, when Deku gets home and goes to meet with his Uncle Bright, or I guess Uncle Jack, to, to tell him the madness that happened at school, he sees his Uncle Jack, I guess. Leave in the comments whether you want him to be called Uncle Bright or Uncle Jack. So, yeah, as he sees a man sitting across from him in the living room area who has clear eyes where your normal eyes would be, basically like transparent eyes, as well as 5 different eyes on his forehead, each with a galaxy pattern. As his Uncle Jack remarks, oh, Izuku, I suppose I should introduce you. This is Bluto. Obviously, this is the SCP who brought them to this dimension. As Izuku looked at him, remarking, I didn't think he looked like this. As his Uncle Bright laughs and says, well, obviously. I mean, for starters, the whole thing was already happening back home that actually caused us to have an opening to escape here to begin with. It's called the apotheosis, and it looks like he was affected. Izuku scratched his head, not knowing exactly what that is. I'll leave a link in the description below to a apotheosis of the SCP multiverse so that you can fully understand what it is. But basically, normal people who get hit by this end up with some powers, varying from person to person, and it can be pretty epic. However, if it hits a SCP, they get like even more control over their powers, like greater control and even some add-ons to their abilities. As for Bluto, who is the unwilling, or at least was the unwilling dimension hopper, is now able to peer into the dimensions that he's looking to hop into beforehand, as well as choose which dimension he wants to go in willingly. So no more random jumps, since being affected by apotheosis, which is a word that means basically a form of ascension. So he ascended to a higher state of being. He also is able to teleport without jumping dimensions from one spot to another, as long as he knows where he's going. Now then, after that, Izuku states that he's going to put his bag in his room and come back. While Izuku's gone and nobody else is there, Bluto pulls out a really big paper bag, patting it, causing Uncle Jack to look at it. As Bluto stated, SCP 420-J. As Uncle Jack just stands up, takes a deep breath, walks over to Bluto and hugs him, saying, "You are my Moses." Which is basically saying that he is his savior. as he puts the bag down and says, "That isn't the only thing I brought." As Bright steps back, he shows him 3 vials of blue liquid, stating, "This is the apotheosis. I think you know who I brought this for, Jack." Jack takes it as he cries a little bit, saying, This, this could save them. This could save me." As Bluto stated, "Exactly why I brought it." As Jack wiped his face and took a deep breath to ask, "Okay, what about Izuku's cousin? How is he holding up? No, you can track him just from sitting here with those eyes on your forehead." Bluto leaned back, stating that he's doing good, but it seems as though somebody is causing some trouble. Bright suspected that there might be some trouble as he sighs, though Izuku ended up hearing this part. He walked in asking, "I have a cousin? What? Does he have some kind of sheep for a head? Or let me guess. He's made out of, I don't know, food? Or maybe rocks?" As Dr. Bright just scratches his head, states, "No, I mean, it's your actual cousin, like biological cousin on your dad's side." This causes Izuku to pause for a moment, stating, wait. I have an actual biological cousin, and I didn't know about this. Why?" That Jack stated that he didn't know about it until a while after, when Pluto came back after being apotheosis. Zuko was told what exactly that meant, as he stated, "So basically, you're some kind of ascended human, as in, basically you're on a higher plane of existence or something." Pluto shook his head yes, as he stated he brought 3 vials to help out Jack and his sibling. Zuko looked over and says, "You mean Uncle TJ and Aunt Mary, right?" Mary is Bright's biological sister who became an SCP. I put the name Mary because in the SCP universe, she was never actually given a proper name. So, Jack just said, "Well, Hazuku, would you like to come see?" Hazuku couldn't pass seeing this up. First, they went to TJ, saying, as they went to him, "TJ is an SCP, SCP 590, who has the ability to heal other people's wounds, but it transfers it to him. Not just wounds, but illnesses, not just of the body, but of the mind too." He looked at his brother, who he had him absorb mental disabilities in order to keep him from knowing the horror that was happening to him. He leaned up his head and had him drink from one of the vials. His eyes looked as though life was breathed back into them as he began to sit up, while his body grew more and more, and the injuries he accumulated over the years from being used as a test subject for the Foundation just disappeared. Tumors, everything. He was stuck as a child, but now he's a young adult. Not just that, but the mental diseases as well, or disorders, whichever you would call them, not just dementia, but uh, dyslexia, autism, and such, that could impair certain functions of the body. but all the tumors and all the illnesses he had all went away. He was clear of mind. Though his clothes were a bit tight now, he was able to stand up. He was physically fit as he looked at his brother and started to cry, remembering all his brother did to try to help him, even though he made him mentally inept. He knows that his brother did it in order to protect him from realizing the horrible things the Foundation were doing to him. He hugged his brother, saying, "Thank you, Jack. Thank you." Jack began to cry as well as he hugged his brother. After that, Jack said that they should probably get him some fitting clothes. After leaving Jack and TJ alone to talk a little bit, Jack came out, closing the door behind him, and a minute later, TJ came out with his bed sheets wrapped around him like a toga for the time being until they get him some proper fitting clothes. Afterwards, they went to their younger sister, Mary, who wasn't given a name at the Foundation, but was given a name once they got to the My Hero universe. Once they got to her, they saw her 10 feet tall, sitting on the ground with her back against the wall, with metal braces strapped onto her body, and with a metal heart in her chest, assisting her already existing heart to pump her blood properly throughout her large body, with fragile bones that could easily break, in a very, very weak mental state that made her no better than a toddler, mentally at least. They looked at their sister and took the second vial of the Apotheos serum, had her drink it. The braces that were covering her body to support it merged into her flesh as the straps that kept the metal on were left. The metal began to fuse into her bones and muscle fibers, while the metal heart that assisted in pumping her blood properly merged with her heart and blood vessels, enabling the heart to grow not just double, but basically triple its size to pump the blood of her body properly. Her normally skinny frame became more muscular in appearance. Her mind began to become stronger mentally, remembering all that her brother Jack did in his many bodies, remembering the same amulet, remembering what it did, remembering what her brother told her the amulet did. She saw her brother. She hugged them, saying thanks, looking at Bright, saying thanks for never giving up on us. They hugged their younger sister, though stated that it was a little awkward having the youngest sibling there being the tallest, since she's 10 feet tall. As a side effect of the Apotheos ability, her body, bones, and muscle mass are incredibly highly compact, dense. Not only that, she's able to turn her skin into steel, the same alloy that the braces that were supporting her body were made out of, as well as controlling her growth rate, not only to grow into a giantess, but to shrink back down. Though her the smallest she can get is her 10 feet form. But she was happy either way. Her body was finally strong enough to support itself, and her mind was clear and can do whatever she wants. remember everything her brother taught her and told her. After that, TJ and Mary were introduced to the rest of the family as they were finally able to talk to them properly. So, Mary and TJ remarked that they saw the third vial, asking if it was for Jack. He said yes, as he sighed and stated that he needs to prepare, not knowing how this will affect him, but having a good idea what he has to do to make it work properly for his condition. As he gets into a robe with a pair of pajama pants and a bathrobe, he ties the belt and drops the top part while it's still hanging off of him, revealing the amulet that contains his soul that transfers all basically transfers his soul from one body to a next whenever it dies, worried about what might happen. He takes a deep breath, begins to pour the apotheose serum on top of the amulet as he lays down, and it spreads off of it onto his body. It's they could see as the serum not only soaked into his body through the skin, but also, oddly enough, soaked into his flesh. I mean, sorry, but it didn't just soak into his flesh, it also soaked into the amulet itself. Afterwards, the amulet just sunk into his body, disappearing. This amulet was legit invincible. Like, they couldn't destroy it at all. The flesh of his body, like the muscle mass and tissues and such, merged with the diamonds and rubies, including his bones. As for his heart, it merged with the white gold and his blood vessels as well. He found himself being able to control light in a sort of fashion, able to control what he looks like. He took a deep breath, remembered what he originally looked like, his first body, controlling the light using his crystal flesh in order to make him look the same way he did, as well as controlling his crystal flesh to reform, to take the same shape as his original face. He looked into a mirror, just smirked, and couldn't stop crying as he stated, "I never thought I'd see my old face again." The powers he has now is not only invulnerability, but the ability to produce and control crystals that he produces, either, soothing him out or like just launching them by touching the ground and such, similar to Todoroki's ice. From there, he also found out that if he controls the crystals to take a certain shape, he can magnify even small amounts of light to become a strong ray of heat that could be very hot, widespread, or can even burn things quite easily once it's concentrated. He thought that this would be incredibly useful. He already registered his quote unquote quirk as being able to change up his appearance and such, which comes in handy if his current body dies and he needs to switch over to a new one discreetly. After that, when everybody's celebrating, Bluto and Jack go over to another room as they begin talking about Izuku's cousin again, though Izuku slipped trying to hear, though was unable to due to the loud noise. Sighing, he just went back to the celebration, getting to no, his new aunt and uncle. So, after some craziness, some of the SCPs got a few scrapes, and TJ went to heal them. As he did, he was expecting marks to come onto his body, but none did. Due to the Apotheos serum, he's able to heal injuries not only of others, but himself as well, without receiving any injuries of his own. Even the most severe injuries, illness, and mental illnesses were no match, and he didn't receive any of them. Now, back to Bluto and Jack, as they begin talking about Izuku's cousin, stating that the SCPs that Bluto brought recently, asking if they've been checked, as well as the one that he's worried about been modified. Jack stated that yes, that one has been modified by the help of Salem and sorry, and Abby, I believe is the name of the sorry. But basically he remarks that the cyborg child and the witch child have both been of great help in modifying the SCP that he brought him, remarking that the witch child has gone by the name Salem for quite a while, as a way of trying to leave her past behind her. Pluto's remarks that he does understand the sentiment, and also that he can understand why they want to leave the whole thing behind them. And I just remembered I made the cyborg child's name Claire in this one, so sorry about that, but basically Salem and Claire used their combined powers to modify an SCP. As they remark that Jack says that he'll need Ludo to send them over to Deku's cousin. Ludo agrees, given the situation seems to be getting somewhat dire. Though if something insane happens that he might not be able to handle, then they'd have to go there themselves. As Seth, sorry, as Bluto also remarks that there are some SCPs that are apotheosed back home that he's hoping to bring somewhere safe, remarking that Seth is one of them and that he's very eager to meet his family. With Jack stating, well, I can understand that, and I hope it does happen soon, but honestly, we still have some preparations to make, don't we? Pluto said that he did agree. After that, they all went to bed. Now with PJ and Mary all set up in proper rooms and beds, though Mary needed very extra large bed to sleep in. But Salem did use her powers to make a bed for her, using some of the wood out back and some other material in the house, knowing that making it out of thin air would be a problem. She's trained very well to control her powers and focus her thoughts to not jeopardize the fabric of reality over time. Now then, we get to the part of UA where everybody gets onto the bus to go to the USJ. While on the ride there, Sue and the others are talking about quirks and ones that could make great heroes. It goes similar to in canon with some of them, as Suyu then states that Izuku's quirk seems a lot like All Might's in some aspects. This catches his attention and tries to play it off, as then Denki states that All Might can't make things or seems to pull things out of thin air. Izuku states that pulling weapons out of thin air and having a durable body, he inherited that from his dad. As then Todoroki asked what his dad is like, Izuku stated he doesn't know, he never met him really, as stating that his dad died shortly after he was born. Todoroki apologized, as then Izuku stated, "Why are you apologizing? I think what my dad did the, was incredible. He actually sacrificed himself in order for me to live. If he didn't, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't have the friends I have. I wouldn't be a classmate of yours. If I always feel that if I regret that he wasn't here with me right now, that I might be insulting his sacrifice he made for me to live." Smiling and looking at his classmate, as Suyu chimes in, stating, "That seems like a very mature way of thinking about it, though one I've never really heard of." Izuku stated, "Well, I'm told I inherited a lot from my dad, including his thing about respecting people that show their resolve as well as showing that they are incredibly capable, whether it be mentally or physically. I even heard one time that my dad and my Uncle Jack spent weeks playing tic tac toe because it kept coming up in a tie, and my dad would not accept having a tie, which kind of surprises his whole class, thinking, what kind of person is that stubborn? As then they think about it for a second and look at Bakugo, and he just says, "Oi, the hell are you looking at?" Though Izuku has a nervous face as he remembers something when he went to sleep a couple of days ago. When he remembers a dream he has, when he saw a man sitting on a bench in his dream, stating, "Hello, Izuku. I don't think we've been properly introduced. You could call me the Dream Man, or at least some people call me that. Others that seem close to me call me Dreamer." Deku asked him something. "Okay, I've heard a little bit about you, but what do you want?" As he just smirks, saying, "Well, I hitchhiked on one of the members of your family who was asleep at the time, whenever they were brought here. And what I do is tell people when a danger is coming, as he warns him about a man cloaked in darkness who will bring many enemies to him soon. Also stating that to beware the monster who bears his mind to the world, the man who wears the hand of his father." He doesn't quite understand what this guy is saying. Before he can ask any details, considering how cryptic he's being, he wakes up. He tells his Uncle Bright about this, and he is worried. So he gives him something, a tracker. It will constantly give updates on the situation, whether, and states that if it gets jammed or if you break it, we'll know to come help you. We'll assemble a force and we'll assemble who we can and come help you. Dreamer only comes and helps people by giving them a warning when something really serious is going to happen. Though I'm not sure what he means by a monster that bears his mind to the world. As then he goes into the vault, handing him two things. One is a little bottle that holds three of the SCP, like all purpose medicine SCP 500 that heals everything, as well as a capsule that holds a single pill that looks yellow, which is an SCP, which is basically a banana pill. If you don't know what a banana pill is basically a potassium pill. It's like a liquid one or whatever, stating that if anybody gets severely injured, use these if you have to. Then we're pointing at the one with the banana pill. Only use this one as a last resort, shoving it down the enemy's throat if you have to. Izuku looks at them, worried about what kind of trouble normally happens whenever this Dream Man is giving out warnings, especially very cryptic ones, which Izuku finds very, very annoying. After that, his little flashback, they reach the USJ as they head in. Obviously, 13 is there, All Might's there because he had his organ switched out with stuffing and such, and Aizawa's there as well. All Might is able to stay in his buff form a lot longer, though considering it isn't his original organs and such, he can't stay in that form permanently. So it's a little kind of iffy staying in that form, at least for long periods of time. Now, as they begin talking, we see that that the League of Villains is coming out from Kurogiri's portal, including Homura Shigaraki and the Nomu. Once Izuku sees this, he realizes what the Dream Man meant, a monster that bears its mind to the world, and a man who wears the hand of his father. As he then thinks, wait, is that thing on his face really? Oh god, that's just wrong. As All Might and Aizawa jump into the fray, telling the students to stay back and to leave, they are cut off by Kurogiri as they're fighting. Although All Might took out a few villains, the Nomu went straight for All Might, attacking him repeatedly. As All Might recognizes that his punches aren't doing much. Afterwards, they are still separated like in canon, and Izuku is worried about All Might as well as Momo, Bakugo, and his other friends he made. He's still with Yu and such, going to the shipwreck zone, though this time he pulls out a chain from the little pocket dimension and uses it to hook onto the boat, pulling him in. Once there, they come up with the same plan as in canon, but Izuku is able to pull off like pull off the plan without breaking anything. As he goes up to the shore, seeing what's happening, he tells Sue and Netta to leave as they see All Might try to suplex the Nomu, and the Nomu has his fingers dug into his sides. It isn't as bad as in canon for him, but he still can't get free, since this thing has a grip on him like a vice. Mineta asked, wait, what exactly are you thinking of doing? Zuko looks at them, stating, don't worry, everything's gonna be okay. You gotta trust me. Asui states, alright, we're gonna trust you. As they go and leave, Homura's too busy gloating at All Might. As Izuku powers up One for All and takes out a sword, as well as a shield with bladed sides, glitching towards the Nomu, who is beginning to draw All Might in. But this time, Izuku goes and just straight up cuts the Nomu's arms off, allowing All Might to get free, though he is kind of staggering a bit. As then he sees that Tomura guy got Aizawa, as we see that he does have some decayed part of his arm, just kind of chipped, but he isn't dead, just knocked around a good bit. As they then see the Nomu is regenerating. With Dooku putting up the shield, the Nomu just blitzes him, going full throttle, grabbing Izuku's arm, ripping it off. Izuku yells in pain, but still remains on his feet, staggering, trying to stay on his feet, as he smirks, with Tomura being confused, as he takes a look at the severed arm, rapidly decaying, turning into dust. He wonders what the hell is going on. Looking back at Izuku's arm regenerates instantly, as he smirks, saying, "You hurt my mentors. You threatened the lives of my classmates, my friends. You threatened to kill them. I am not going to stand for that." The markings, the red markings on his body begin to glow brightly as his eyes just burst with a red glow. He shatters the tracking device that is capable of going through normal jamming things from quirks, as he walks up to them, as the black markings across his body begin to envelop the parts that aren't covered with red markings, showing a black skin, like literal pitch black stone skin. He charges up One for All and blitzes the Nomu, punching like fist to fist, though unbeknownst to them, well, at least at first, when they realize what's going on, they're shocked. Izuku in this form is causing the Nomu's arm to freeze solid. Inside the box that his father would regenerate in, it was negative 180 degrees. That is like insane freezing. And with it condensed in his body now, it's even more, it's like even colder, rapidly freezing his body inside out. As Izuku begins punching him rapidly over and over, freezing his body, his legs, his arms, but body just snaps off the frozen parts, rapidly regenerating over and over. As Izuku is getting tired, though seeing that in this form that he never knew he had, the Nomu isn't able to tear him up or cause any real harm with his punches, smirking at this, but seeing that if he doesn't stop this quickly, then it could just go on forever. He drops this new transformation, popping out one of the capsules, pulling out the yellow banana pill his uncle gave him, jumping and grabbing the Nomu by the mouth, yanking it open and just shoving it down his throat. He jumps away, as Tomura remarked, "What was that? Honestly, do you think shoving something into his stomach will take him out?" Deku smirked, saying, "Oh, I'm pretty sure this little pet of yours is done for," as the Nomu began to writhe in pain. That banana pill SCP has the effect of filling the person who ingests his stomach, lungs, and such with full on bananas. His lungs, his stomach began to fill all the way with bananas, even to the point to where the Nomu was trying to stop its suffocation by coughing up bananas, though it eventually died from suffocation. As All Might wasn't sure what just happened, though now they can deal with the villains. As they went to go attack Shigaraki, a portal opened up beneath him as he fell in. Though they still had villains all across the place, with Tomura and Kurogiri gone now, as the Nomu lay dead, but there were still plenty of villains, and many of their friends are in some trouble taking out the villains, since they did bring a lot more villains after hearing some rumors about the class, including Izuku Midoriya and the family he comes from that they dug up. Though they decided to keep tearing all over as their classmates scattered about were having a bit more trouble. Though now, with being teleported there, Izuku's family were there to help them out. As for Ida and such, he still did go a bit like in canon, though, you know, everything still happened where he did leave to go get reinforcements, but after the whole thing was broken and blocked, the transmitter Izuku was given, they had to get everything ready, suiting up, and bringing everybody that could help. The water zone, there were some villains that were able to escape being captured and were heading to the shore to start tearing up some heroes that were injured. Though they were interrupted by Cthulhu and the Child of Evolution, who was riding a frickin' beast kraken creature that she used. Like, she actually made this thing. She's able to, like, add evolutionary traits to creatures. And she's a licensed hero. As Cthulhu grabs some of the villains with his tendrils on his face, as well as a child of evolution. Cthulhu tells them that I'm not normally a violent person. You messed with my family. And now you're gonna pay. Smacking them around, tossing them like rag dolls. As the child of evolution is having their fun. As Mary, who is now an apotheosed SCP, goes giant mode, saving Momo, Jiro, and Denki from the electric villain and some others, smacking them around. As TJ to goes over to Aizawa to heal him, then quickly goes to try his best to heal 13, who did get injured like in canon. There are others that go there to help them out as well, including, but not limited to, the Tickle Monster, who is in the main courtyard just tackling villains, like full on hugging them, keep just making them all calm and everything. The Witch Child, who's using her powers to create and send ropes to tie up the villains. The Cyborg Child, helping take out villains in the Fire Zone, helping out Ojiro. She is a licensed villain. And Joe, who is an SCP who not only interferes with technology with his ability of electromagnetic pulses, but who is also indestructible as he goes over to help Bakugo and Hiroshima. As they see this guy, The villains go after him thinking that he might be a hero, attacking him head on, but seeing that none of their attacks, whether being sharp, blunt, or any kind of energy based attack, aren't doing anything. And he just full on wrecks them with freaking clubs, saying, honestly, you're not really worth my time. But you messed with my nephew and his friends, so now you're gonna get a beat down. As they start freaking out, trying to run away, but are then stopped by a pissed off Bakugo just cracking his knuckles, saying, where do you think you're going? Yelling terrified as we just see an explosion. There are others that help out stopping them, including two Spooky in the rain, like the rainstorm zone, helping uh, Tokoyami and the mute dude, I forget his name, scaring the villains completely to the point to where they full on pass out. So yeah, there is that. Not it just goes all kinds of crazy. And the villains are very scared. Very, very scared. After everything happens, all of the all of Deku's family members, quote unquote, are there now just piling up the villains in the courtyard, which then the heroes show up, seeing that they're a bit late to the party. Kazuku's family huddles up together to go back home, stating that they'll meet Izuku back home after he leaves school. And Izuku waves, saying, "Uh, no problem. But I think I might have to answer some questions of my classmates before I leave school." Which they're just smirking, wondering how he's gonna explain all that craziness, as well as them like Izuku's classmate just looking at some of the villains who are freaking traumatized, going into the fetal position, rocking, saying, "That didn't happen. That didn't happen. That didn't happen, right? That didn't really happen, right? Right? I did not just see some kind of eldritch horror smack me around, and he was not wearing a Hawaiian shirt and tropical themed giant swim shorts. I did not see that." Yeah, they are pretty much traumatized. After that, the police do come to take the villains away and everything, and Izuku is questioned about those people that he talked to before they just teleported out of there, with him stating that, well, they're actually my family. And, well, one of the members of my family has a prophecy, has a kind of prophecy, kind of quirk kind of thing that tells him when something bad is going to happen, though it ends up being kind of a cryptic warning more than anything. So I kind of had to just prepare as he held out the transmitter describing it. So they get it, though they asked why didn't he say anything, as he stated, well, there wasn't anything in particular that he said that would tell me what exactly to watch out for, as he reinstates that it's a cryptic warning, as Bakugo and Momo remark that, yeah, those were his family, as Bakugo just looks kind of like he doesn't want to talk about it, considering he really hates the slime. Basically, 999 who was there just gathering up the villains, calming them down, making them all mellow. Which, like, Izuku was having a hard time keeping a straight face seeing that. So was Momo. After which, they did offer for them to meet at his house to meet his family, which they were excited about. Though the police and the principal asked that they would have to meet with their families. well, more or less Deku's family about all that happened in this situation. Izuku stated that he'll talk to his Uncle Jack. So, yeah. Afterwards, they do and are told that they're going to get about, let's say, a week off. Let's say some time passes, and first the police, well, yeah, the police do come over about the same time as the class 1A and such. Though the day before, as they were getting ready, Izuku was walking through his house getting some stuff ready to make the house presentable, as his uncle Bright is running through the halls of their mansion only in his underwear, stating, "I can smell the cosmos and see the fifth dimension," as he just runs with Bluto chasing after him, yelling, "Are you insane? You weren't supposed to smoke half of that giant bag all at once." And this was SCP 420-J. As then we hear him state, "Oh my god, there's a snake going up my rear! Yeah!" As then Bluto says, "Someone please just hold him down and get the duct tape." As then Bright says, "No, get away from me, get Pasta Man. Stay back, stay back." About an hour later, after Izuku just walks away, stating in his mind, "I am not dealing with that." Afterwards, he goes into the living room looking around and sees his Uncle Jack asleep, duct taped to the ceiling, including his mouth shut, sighing, telling Cthulhu and Mr. Fish, who are playing video games at the time, telling them that, you're going to have to get him off of that at some point today. Mr. Fish stated, "Well, yes, of course, but we're waiting for him to come down." As Zuko said, "Fair enough," as he sighs, going to bed. Which the next day, the police and his classmates show up. As they walk up to the gate together, Bakugo takes one of the stones and tosses it in the little puddle thing next to it. As his classmates ask, "What was that for?" Bakugo states it's more or less the alarm saying that they got company. Which is when the door opens and they walk in, seeing Nymph, the water nymph SCP, giving them a wave. Her body is completely made out of water. This surprises his classmates, police, and teachers as they state, "What exactly that?" Momo states that she's actually like the groundskeeper. The whole place has reinforced underground water tunnels for her to travel through. She's able to sense when something happens in the water, and it comes in handy for making sure nobody trespasses. Once they get into the house, Mineta full on looks to see where that witch hero Salem is, obviously being the perv, but as they see the invisible woman SCP, which Hagakure reacts saying, "Oh, another invisible woman?" As the SCP invisible woman, remarks, "Oh my god, invisible teenager." As he hugs Hagakure, saying, "Oh, I thought I was alone." Ah, as Mineta just looks, seeing her clothes outline, stating, "I approve." As the SCP Invisible Woman looks at Mineta and feels the creepiness coming off of this kid, grabbing him by the sides of his head, lining him up, and getting a running head start, full on kicking Mineta, doing a kick the baby through the hallway, clean making it through the doorway at the end of the hall, where Mr. Fish was just about to come out from around the corner. Seeing this, as he looks over, putting up his hands, saying "Goal!" remarking, "That was a pretty nice kick, Sam." And yes, that is the invisible woman's name that I'm giving her. As he just does raises her fist in the air, saying, "All right," inviting the girls to meet some of the other female SCPs. As Mineta tries to crawl to say that he wants to meet them too, he is then sees Cthulhu coming up from behind Mr. Fisk as he just sees some kind of frickin' horror and passes out from sheer fear. As the police meet up along with the teachers, with Mr. Bright or Dr. Bright, to talk about their situation. As they remark that it is troubling, but everything went fine and nobody gained any serious injuries. As Recovery Girl then remarked, "Yes, in fact, whoever that was that healed Aizawa and 13 did so even greater than what my quirk does. And that shouldn't really be possible, especially without a loss of stamina." As they're not sure what to say, since they've seen some of their denizens of their household, as they can tell that this isn't normal. Then Aizawa stated that, "I've actually been using my quirk a little bit on some of the people here. It isn't working." Stating that these people, they don't have quirks, but they still have abilities. As he remarked, stating that it shouldn't really be possible. With Inko there too, he pats Jack on the shoulder, stating, "I think we should tell them." As Jack sighs and says, "Okay, I guess we don't have a choice. Cat's out of the bag anyways, and they saw our family kind of go crazy on those villains." As a policeman state, "Yes, not only that, one of them, well, a few of them aren't even licensed heroes to do that. They can't use their quirks to beat up villains." As Jack smirked, saying, "Well, it's a good thing that they don't have quirks." He begins stating what they are, SCPs, and doing some things with some of the SCPs, like ringing the bell, to show them what exactly they do, including Mr. Deeds, even going as far as showing them the bear patch with a patchwork heart, and remarking that even All Might has had some work done by this little guy, which he didn't think would be a problem. But then the teacher said that, well, they were curious because they heard he was injured as part of the whole thing that they were informed about, including his weakened state, but didn't hear about this. As Recovery Girl remarked that, yes, apparently this little thing has the ability to swap out damaged organs and tissue with mixed with patchwork replicas of the organs, while remaining fully functional as the actual organs that they're modeled after. They're surprised by this, and this does throw them for a loop until and they don't think it works until All Might lifts up his shirt, showing them as they feel the fabric as they can tell that the fabric doesn't feel like fabric, it feels like skin, even being warm. As well as getting some quick x-rays showing them his innards now. Well, some scans of his innards rather than x-rays, but you know, it shows that his organs, his damaged organs, are made out of stuff, fluff, and patchwork, which they're shocked about. They leave out some parts out about the experiments and such they had to go through, but they do say that they don't actually have quirks, stating that they are something that's been referred to as SCP, or anomalous object and beings, stating that Zuko is a unique case. He is the son of a anomalous being, as well as a uh, hu- as well as a quirked human from this world. They are kind of blown by this, but given what they've seen and the facts, they kind of have to take it at face value. Considering Izuku has multiple abilities that could be considered quirks in some aspects, this makes a lot more sense, including the regeneration, the conjuring of odd weapons of an unknown make that disappear when he's not holding them, and also the super strength. But that is actually a quirk from which is one for all and such. Now, with that being said, they the students are also informed, but they are surprised. Izuku told his mom and Uncle Bright that he wanted to tell them that they shouldn't be kept in the dark about this. He wanted his friends to know. Felt like he can trust them. And the courage they shown in fighting off the villains proves that he can trust them. So they do. They learn about Izuku's actual self, including his heritage, showing the picture of his dad, and telling them that his dad was actually Abel, stating that it was the actual Abel from the Bible story, and remarking that him and his brother Cain were both cursed. Though his dad lost his curse, including his immortality in the attempt of saving his life after he was born, he was dying from his body being so weak. Also remarking that his hair is basically uncuttable and that's why it's so long. So his siblings take this at, well, his SCP siblings kind of are looking at Deku, worried about him and if he'll be seen as some kind of freak, like they were whenever they were in just locked up in the SCP Foundation. I'm somewhat talking about the child SCP that is basically apparently a girl, including the perfect porcelain doll, who is also internally a child and such. But his classmates, they find it weird, but they can still accept him. With Bakugo walking up to him, saying, "And you kept this from me this entire time? I should kill you!" As Izuku smirks, saying, "Well, I'm not sure that's really possible." With Bakugo getting more mad, saying, "You just digging your grave, aren't you?" With Izuku just smirking more. So, Momo doesn't know what to think. Goes to get some fresh air. As the other girls go to talk some more with the other female SCPs about this. Of course, they state that, well, I guess we understand why she's called the teenage succubus now. As Mineta hears this and tries to sneak away, but is quickly grabbed by Cthulhu, stating, "Oh no, you don't. Oh crap, that's right. That All that means that you're really the real Cthulhu, aren't you? Please God, no, 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 no. He's freaking out, praying to be not destroyed. As Cthulhu states, look, all that about me is actually wrong. I actually just like playing video games. As we just get the prank, huh, face from everybody. And after some talking as such, they do get to eat, and they do use the infinite pizza box again. As Momo and Bakugo state, wait, so you're telling me you didn't buy a ton of pizzas? It all came from just one pizza box? Jeez, infinite pizza for free. You, oh god. Momo is still looking out, just trying to think alone, but Deku finds her and they start to talk. He asked if he felt different about him knowing now that he knows the truth. He remarks that he honestly, at first he thought she would, but he doesn't. Just find it kind of odd. As he then states, especially the part where you're actually the son of Abel from the whole first murder of human history story from that, from what I've heard from that story of the Bible. Kind of makes you think about what to believe, huh? With Deku lying back, thinking, I'm not really sure. I mean, if there is, a god, then I think he only really does the big stuff when he has to. Other than that, I think it's just kind of nudging, or at least giving us a sign or something. Other than that, he really doesn't cause any real kind of havoc or whatever you want to call it. As he just sighs, thinking, probably, but still, a lot to take in. But honestly, I know you're still you, even if I know that you don't actually have a quirk. With uh, Deku scratching his head, nervously laughing. So after that, the week still goes on like in canon, as they go back to school and Aizawa meets them in class stating that they're going to be training for the UA Sports Festival that is coming up now, as they all get pumped. Now, this is where we'll be ending it. In the next part, we will be starting the UA Sports Festival. So, hope you're looking forward to it. See you later. Oh, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And make sure you set it to all so that you know when the next vid is going to be uploaded. Later.